Radio and TV Services Studios, West Yorkshire, late Stencil Mount. Welcome all on board our special discussion with Honorable Mr. Talib Ahmed Bensouda, the leader for the UMC party, political party or movement, they call it. First of all, would like to say a massive thank you to Talib for taking the time, energy, and effort to honor this invitation. Mr. Bensouda, I'd like to say thank you very much for coming. My name is Mustafa Jame at the seat. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to you, wherever you are on this planet Earth, on Skype or here. Greetings, everyone who is anyone. Mr. Bensouda, welcome on board and then say hello to viewers at the moment. Greetings.
Thank you, Mr. Jame. Greetings to all the viewers and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. We'll make a start on this. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming. And my first post would be, why did you decide to form a new movement or political party, Mr. Bensouda?
Well, a group of like-minded Gambians, myself included, decided to form a political platform we believe is what is necessary to change governance in the Gambia. And the only way to do it is to build from scratch. So we formed the Unite Movement for Change. Unite means unite for nation, integrity, transformation, equality. Ingredients we believe are missing in Gambian politics, and we are striving to build and architect a political platform from scratch to have the maximum transformation we believe Gambia needs.
Maximum transformation. Why do you think now is the time you should lead, or the Gambians need now? Why do you think now is the time?
Well, Gambia is out of time. Gambia is behind time. I mean, people are talking robotics. People are talking AI. People are at the avant-garde of technology. Gambia is thinking about basic healthcare. We're thinking about basic necessities such as water, electricity, roads. So I think Gambia is way behind time, and we need to leapfrog, like they say in technology. So we need to disrupt how governance is done. We need transformation. We need a radical approach to governance. And who best than like-minded, young Gambians, Gambians who are dynamic, willing to challenge the status quo, have the courage to start from scratch and not, depend on any platform. So it's new, it's fresh, and every day we're attracting, Gambians from across the board, and we're attracting Gambians at every level, people who are in artisanship, people who are in agriculture, people who felt they were at the margins of society. People are coming from all over the place. And, the good thing is, we started as a group of young guys, but now we're having Gambians from every demographic, male, female, young, old, rural, urban. So I think the message is catching on, and we are not dictating. We just set a platform of values, and we want people to help come craft and create the vision forward.
It makes a lot of sense, Mr. Bensouda, and it sounds good. But we'll come to the former bit of it, and then we'll excel on that. So your former party nurtured you and your political career and elevate you to the level of a mayor. So some people, some of these things, can be hanging over your soldier. So if I may ask you that bit for to clear that, so that any doubts about that will be cleared. So what went wrong and why? What happened?
Well, I think it's not about what went wrong. It's about what vision I had as a politician. I love the UDP. I've loved the UDP very much. I'll never say anything terrible or bad about the UDP or its party leader. I entered politics to serve my country. UDP was the party I was a member of. And at some point, views diverged, and we decided, look, we'll just start from scratch. I think it's a courageous thing to do. Many people said, this is something that will not go nowhere. Many people said, oh, why don't you join the incumbent party? Many people said, why don't you come lead our own parties which are established? We said, no. We left a party because we felt that the vision was different. And if we are going to do it, we are going to start from scratch. And so I think it's a brave thing. It's a courageous thing. And myself and other like-minded people started it. And every day we see people now, are subscribing to the idea of building a political party from the basics. And that starts from small things like the principles, the values, which we believe is missing in governance because political parties move on to govern. So if you say you're going to change how Gambia is governed, you must start it at the political party level.
That makes sense. But if I may ask, do you believe in political loyalty? Does it expire?
Well, I don't think you should be loyal to anything other than the Gambia. The reason we are loyal to our parties is because we believe they're best for the Gambia. The day we stop believing that, then loyalty to the Gambia prevails. So I think this is more about country, nation building. It's not about personalities. It's not about individuals, and it's certainly not about groups. It's about our collective progress as Gambians and as a nation. So when that calling comes, we have to stand up and do what we believe is right. So it's a matter of conviction.
Not a matter of loyalty expired. No.
No, well, I certainly don't see it that way. If you look at political parties and as human beings, we evolve. Political parties evolve. Human beings change their perspectives and ideas, and times change. So times change, my perspectives changed, and I decided to go with my conviction. The last thing I want to do is betray myself or my country. So if I don't believe in something, I will go for what I believe in. And I've said it even when I was with the UDP. If you've heard certain audios I've released, when people were saying, "Oh, Mayor Bensouda might leave," I said, "If I am to leave, I will announce it, and I don't fear no man. I follow what I believe. All I fear is God. And if I don't believe in something anymore, I will jump right out and say I don't believe in it." So I believe we're on the right track. I believe we've set up a platform I believe in. And when we preach to people, I certainly say, look, I don't want anybody to join us because they think they're going to get material gain. I don't want to mislead anybody, and I don't certainly want to pressure anybody to join us. I want to just promote what I believe is the best option for the Gambia. And if you hear the calling and you feel like this is something you believe in, then why not come and join us? And I say in every meeting, don't follow Talib Bensouda. Come join us and accompany us to make the difference for everyday Gambia.
Makes sense. Well, how is your new movement different from any of the political parties or even your former party? How is it different?
Well, it's already very different. I mean, we are crafting our constitution. We have lawyers there, we have technicians there, we have politicians there, and we have grassroots people there. So we are trying to learn from our mistakes or what we believe are mistakes of political parties as far as governance structure is concerned. Uh, right now, there's a manifesto building committee. I have not seen the draft yet. They basically are building their own draft based on feedback they've gotten from various sectors in society. And we are to see the draft built by the team for the first time on February 14th. So it's a decentralized approach. We are also ensuring that, like I said, in our constitution, there's checks and balances. So one difference which I contributed, and the constitution is almost final. I said, I want the party leader and the secretary general and the chairman of the party to be three different individuals. We want to create checks and balances and no concentration of power.
Okay,
So we are
help me out with
already
this.
we're
Help me out
already
with
building
this.
it
The
differently.
party leader,
Yeah.
the chairman, and all that. Please talk us through this, please.
Right. So we looked at different models of party constitutions across the world, and we certainly all of us agreed on one thing, that if you look at from 1965 to date, the reason leaders find it very difficult to leave positions of leadership because it's almost like they're entrapped by party constitutions, entrapped by national constitutions. So we have to start the building process at the party level. So when we were crafting our constitution, we looked at a model we believed would decentralize party governance and would create checks and balances, especially around the leadership. So we have a bottom-up approach, but when it comes to the top, we say the party leader will be the political head of the party, and that person's function is to create vision, is to basically create direction. Now, the Secretary General will be the chief administrator of the party. This person will be responsible for the day-to-day running of the party and its bureaus and its offices and its administrative functions. The chairperson of the party will be sort of the whip of the party. They would be sort of the governance structure that looks at rules, processes, procedures, and would chair meetings of the party. So it's like a three-man top, but of course the party leader has an edge a bit. But when it comes to raw power, the Secretary General will be more powerful than the party leader as far as how the party is run. So that's why we have a clause that says if a Secretary General wishes to be flag bearer, they must first resign as Secretary General.
What is your role?
Well, we are going to, I'm certainly, look, we're not going to deny that I am certainly the initiator of the movement. I am certainly the de facto leader of the movement, but we want processes. So as we speak now, we've started village congresses, which we call assemblies. We have started ward constituency congresses, which we also call assemblies. And the regional congresses will commence next weekend. So certainly sometime after the Ramadan, we'll move to national congresses, and I've made it no secret that I'll vie for the party leadership, which is the de facto position I hold.
Great stuff. What are some of your key values? Values that will say, hey, nobody's going to mess about with this. What are some of your key values?
Right. So as we speak, we are crafting the principles of the party. But one thing is for sure, we agree on 4 tenets that we believe are missing in Gambian politics, or if not missing, certainly need to be increased. And that is one, patriotism. You see, as I have been mayor, going around the country, especially observing our youth, one thing I've noticed is love for nation is certainly something we need to increase and promote. You look at even football pitches when they put on the National Assembly, sorry, the national anthem, you see that most of the youth around the pitch don't even rise. So there seems to be a lack of awareness about patriotism, loyalty to the Gambian flag, etc. So we believe everything starts from there. One must be ready to serve their nation and not always think on the lines of benefiting from the nation. The second is integrity. The biggest challenge we see in Gambian governance overall is a general, deficit of integrity, and this is from little things like ethical behavior in the office. This is little things like being honest at a political platform, not make false promises at a political platform, and just generally one doing the right thing all the time. So this is something we believe needs to be ingrained in Gambian politics. The third is transformation. We believe Gambia is a country, like I said, that is behind, a country that's out of time, a country that needs to disrupt and transform. For if you look at poverty, we are 50% below the poverty line. You look at illiteracy rates, more than 50% are illiterate. You look at unemployment, especially youth unemployment, is very high. So we don't have time. We are out of time. We need to disrupt, we need to transform. As a small nation, we need to think big. That is the only way we can pull ourselves out of this situation. And the last, which I believe every Gambian agrees on, is equality. There's a problem of tribes in the Gambia, factionalism. There's a lot of cult-like following of leaders, and there's little debate on ideas, little debate on issues. If you even look at the current attacks between political parties, you barely hear any battles of ideas or concepts or how to move the country forward. It's always, oh, you said this to this person, you did this to that person. So we want to transcend that type of politics. So the Unite movement for change is Unite for nation integrity, transformation, equality. And we are striving to change our country based on strong foundations, strong principles.
You've said something that means a lot to me, myself here, nationalism. People loving their country first. Honestly, I've been in here for some time. You've been in Canada or somewhere for some time. When it comes to nationalism, I don't know. In the Gambia, this is a big challenge. People will look at it, then one another. What tribe is he? Which party does he belong to? Your party, how would you help with this? Because this is key, like seeing the Gambia first. Whatever happens, the Gambia. What are some of your ways or plans in place for things like nationalism, Mr. Bensouda? Right. I think, right. Okay. He must have gone frozen there. You can say the internet connection back home in the Gambia is a big challenge. I'll come to the comments. If you have any questions or comments, I will have a little look at them and then I'll read them with time. So Mr. Bensouda went frozen there. I think it's good to do with his internet connection in the Gambia. We do apologize sincerely. And then thank you to everyone who's passing this message on, who's telling friends and families to come and join. Just tag everyone to come here and join us about this special discussion with Mr. Bensouda. Oh, fortunately, we got him back. Oh, he's gone again. So I think he's using his phone. Maybe he's a busy guy. Maybe if you got incoming calls, the internet or the connection is going to drop. But notwithstanding, fortunately, we've got him back. Sincere apologies about that. I think it's not his fault. Maybe it's the Gambian internet side of it. When he is president,
So I have do not disturb, but there are certain individuals I have put on priority. So when they call,
okay.
yeah.
So nationalism.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. You see, every other issue I have spoken about, integrity, transformation, equality, the strongest of these values or tenets is patriotism. So if you are a patriot and you love your nation, you would automatically have integrity when it comes to issues of nation building. If you love your nation, you would always be dreaming and imagining how to improve and how to innovate. If you love your nation, you certainly will not think on tribal lines or on collectivism or factionalism. You're always going to think about what is best for all Gambians, whether you like them or not. And even when you look at all the governments, they victimize people they believe don't belong to the same party. Today, I hosted people from a bank, and they said, Mayor, we want to join the movement, but we are scared that our bank leaders will tell us not to participate in politics. I said, why would you not participate in politics? There's no rules that say citizens who are in private sector or working for banks should not support parties. If you can support football teams, if you can support your community activities, you can take sides on certain matters. Why not politics? Politics is the foundation that binds our country. If you can be Christians and Muslims, which is arguably more complex in a bank, why can't you support different political parties and tolerate each other? And they said, well, if leaders in like the central government know this, the central bank might use their regulatory power and do something to the bank. And this is what I was saying. It's we have to love our nation beyond anything, and we should look at all Gambians as equal, regardless of who they subscribe to. So I believe patriotism is more present in Senegal, more obvious in Senegal, and we should strive to educate Gambians about why love for nation is very important.
Precisely. How do you respond to critics who say this move is driven by personal ambition, not national ambition?
Well, certainly not. I entered politics trying to be a National Assembly member. People forget.
Okay.
I tried to be the National Assembly member of Serakunda West because my private interest is to remain a business person because I certainly get paid more as a business person. Participating in politics, I thought would be a part-time activity. So I was looking for sort of a light schedule when it comes to politics because I needed to focus on my business, which is the source of my well-being and the well-being of my family. And when I was late to apply and convinced to, let Madi Sise of Serakunda West take up that position because he was so deserving of it and everything he suffered, I found back. Then I tried to be the counselor of Kolole, and I was convinced out of it by Kutubo Mane. He asked about my history, and when he realized I had some work experience in municipal governance when I was in Canada, he convinced me to run for mayor, which I thought in my mind was work for old people. I did not think that a mayor was something a young person should do or could do. And I certainly felt that I did not have the time because I had a business of 40 plus people that, pays my bills. But after some talking, I was convinced and I said, okay, let me throw my hat in the ring. And, I was privileged to be mayor, not just one term, but two terms. But many people remember, even in my first term as I campaigned, I said, if I'm lucky to have a second term, it would be my last. By then I was thinking Usain Dabo would be president in 2021. I had no idea that we would not win, in 2021. And I certainly had no idea that this was on the horizon. For me, it's about conviction, is about belief. And anytime I believe this is the right thing, I will pursue it. That's how I'm built, and I want to do it while I'm young and able, because that's the time I believe that I can give it my maximum.
Makes sense. So, some people would uh, do a follow up on this and see what would be your message for supporters who feel a bit confused or disappointed, if I may put it, like say, oh, Talib should have stayed in UDP, Talib should not have done that, he betrayed this, he did that. So, you need to send that clear message out there to people to know that, listen, this is what sort of message would you send to people who are sort of standing on the face or sitting on the fence or a bit confused or a bit disappointed? What would be your message to them?
Well, I would expect that a person who loves UDP and is in the party would be disappointed. That's normal. They would like it's like you supporting a football team like Real Madrid. You wouldn't like Cristiano Ronaldo to leave, or or Benzema, or people you feel like are good players in your team. Although I wouldn't like to make that parallel between sports and politics because politics is more serious. They certainly would feel that way. But at the end of the day, it's about what I believe. If I believe that this is the right path for me, I will take that path. And remember, I did not leave UDP and go to the ruling party, which was an option, and which is what many people would do. They would, if it was for selfish interest, I would have left UDP actually before 2021, because I certainly had that option with NPP, and I could have reached the highest positions up to vice president or even negotiated to see if I could be a future replacement for Barrow. All of these things would be what an individual interest would look like. In individual interest certainly doesn't look like this. Starting out venturing, starting a movement from scratch, you know, starting with five people on the table and trying to, get people to hear your message. It's very difficult. It's hard. I don't think many people have built political parties from scratch or even any institutions from scratch. Is a very big, big task. So, like I said, it's about belief. It's not about doing it just for the sake of doing it or staying somewhere just for the sake of staying there. It's about doing what you believe is the right path for the country. And like I said, I maintain absolute respect for UDP and utmost respect for the party leader, Usain Dabo. And I promised him, I said, look, I will always look at you as a father figure. I will always respect you. But this is the end of the road for me, as far as the UDP is concerned. So it is a natural feeling. I don't blame or fault anybody for it. But it's also a decision that every individual must make as a politician.
How about the confused ones?
The what?
The confused ones.
Yeah,
Some these are the
I believe,
educated ones and
yeah.
the confused ones, or they who claim to be
Yeah,
confused.
I've had a lot of people that I've grown to love in the party. They've loved me, and we've shared great moments together. These are brothers and sisters, and above all, they are Gambians who fought side and side with me on many fronts, and a lot of good people who did a lot for the country. So I certainly don't want to say anything other than to pray for them and hope that they fulfill their dreams. However, People who are confused also, it's about, they still have that affection for me, but I believe that politics is a long game. You always look at politics as a long-term institution. You always look at it as a long-term play. Is going to be about how our individual decisions collectively impact the country in a positive way. And I believe the UMC would impact Gambian politics and impact opposition politics and impact generally governance in Gambia in a positive way. And I don't think people still see the project in its totality, because remember, we're in a nascent time of 4 months. We are literally building from scratch. So I believe in a few months, people will really see the magnitude and the positive impact of the project we are building.
Hey, greetings, Andy. That's the MP of my area is watching here. Andy, greetings. Right. If I see, you think you gain, you will gain public trust? Do you think you will gain public trust? Because this, our community, the mindset and the way people perceive things or people see things and their mindset, the way that you think you will have, because some will say, "Oh, Talib is a betrayer. Oh, Talib is, Jamfa Katla, Jamfa." So that
Yeah.
side of the mindset of a typical Gambian, you think you'll be able to convince them and then make them trust you?
Absolutely. I think I already have built my credibility. I've already built the trust of Gambians. Certainly, the people who are diehard UDPians will not be happy, but it's the same as when I was in UDP. I could not have that credibility or trust with the ruling party supporters. So in Gambia, you're the villain when you're not part of a party, and you'll be celebrated when you're part of the party. We've seen instances where, people who literally insulted UDP on television. When they came to UDP, they were celebrated and lifted. So that is the factionalism I'm saying. A lot of the love and hate is based on party lines. It's not based on the nation. It's not based on the positive things one does for their country. I've built the trust with ordinary citizens, and I see it every day. I feel it every day, and even more so now. Can you believe, Jamme? Now I see a lot of people who come to me and said, "Oh, you made the right decision. Now we can support you." And I asked myself the same question. If you felt I was good, why couldn't you support me when I was in UDP? I mean, so this is the mindset I'm saying. It's so based on me versus the rest. It's so based on the cult I belong to or the party I support, and it's not just based on genuine Gambians trying to build Gambia. So like I said, UDP is probably about 15 to 20% of the Gambian electorate, but 80% of Gambians are indifferent with my decision. And many, many, many Gambians support it. And many in UDP support me, but they're just quiet because of they fear what the implications might mean with the leadership. But what we are trying to do in Gambian politics, like I said, is to change the concepts, is to change how people view politics, is to evolve politics into a mature business, because it's a serious business. Politics means life and death for Gambians in all instances. I mean, from child mortality to back way to poverty, it's life and death to security. So it's a serious affair and must be taken seriously, and that's exactly what we're doing at UMC.
You think there's some people in UDP who still like you or who still want to join UMC, but they're afraid or scared of something? Talk me through, please. Is
Uh,
this?
Well, look, I certainly don't want to be viewed as somebody trying to, take UDP supporters away, because we are both opposition. What we should be focusing on is how to get NPP supporters to the opposition. And you can talk to any UDP supporter who I maintain a good relationship with the vast majority. And I never try to talk them into joining UMC. I mean, they're more than welcome. That's a personal choice. But I'd certainly like it to be a choice of where somebody believes in UMC as a new and better direction, rather than just trying to join to appease me or just to join to make fun of the UDP. So I believe the most of people in UDP have good positive vibes towards me. Some view it as just a issue of at the top level. They don't see it something that is against the party. So, the campaign manager of UDP, Pamane, was in my office 2 weeks ago. And that's just an example, trying to convince me to support an event which is Keba Kuyate, Jaliba's son. He's the personal manager. Every day I bump into UDP people, and I do talk to a lot of them on a daily basis. These are relationships established over many years. So just to keep the answer short, I do maintain quite positive relationship with the vast majority of the party.
Do you have some who wanted to join but they're quiet over it?
I do hear, I've talked to one or two who said, look, I want to join, but I fear the repercussions. I fear being insulted, I fear all these things. There's quite a number. And when I talk to other UMC supporters, they do say there's quite a number, but it's something that, we don't pursue. And I certainly asked many people, even Ibrahim Adiba, he says it all the time. He said, look, guys, UDP is not our target. Our target is the ruling party. Let's focus on the ruling party. And I think that's so true. I mean, our doors are open to everybody. It's open to both opposition and the ruling party. But certainly the joy we would have from people who are in power deciding to be part of the opposition far outweighs people from other opposition parties joining
Okay.
the UMC.
My concern here, you
Yeah.
mentioned something. You
Yeah.
said they said if they happen to come and join you, they fear to be insulted. So what does that imply? Does that mean
Yeah, well, we've heard that.
what does that imply, Mr. Bensouda? Help me out. I need to know. We need to
you know,
know.
well, there's quite a few people, who fear that they might be victimized if they join, if they leave the UDP. But I mean, these are sentiments because of, I guess, examples they have seen in the past. It certainly should not be that way. People should not, follow anybody out of fear. They should follow people based on belief. But like I said, I don't want to sit here and say UDP does this or that, because certainly that would not be a good thing of me. I was in the party. I was a bona fide member. I was an active member. I love the party, and I still do. It's just a matter of difference in viewpoints, different in vision, and I believe we have to oppose differently, and we have to govern our parties differently. And the best way is to form our own, and that is the UMC.
Thank you. Some would
Thank you.
say here, and then there's one key thing here, Mr. Bensouda, for myself here. What policies
No.
would your party prioritize when given power? Some of the policies you're going to prioritize because the Gambia, this so-called elites thing, we need to do away with it. What would you prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, one thing like I want to make clear is I don't want to get ahead of the manifesto team. So I'll wait and see what they present on February 14th. They've asked the questions, but I believe vast majority of Gambians are underprivileged, and those are the people we should listen to, and those are the people we should focus on. For Gambia to be strong, the collective, the majority need to be strong. For Gambia to be educated, for Gambia to be productive, we need to capacitize majority of our people. So I think it should be a bottom-up approach. It should be a grassroots interventions. It should be focusing on day-to-day Gambians in the farms, in the gardens, in the at sea fishing, the artisans trying to make a living, the youth who feel disenfranchised and sit all day unemployed, some using drugs, some doing crime, and some idle, some not going to school. So I believe Gambia doesn't have elites. When people say Gambia has elites, I think Gambia has people who are better off, but I believe that Gambia generally is just poor all around. I've had visitors who come from the US and other countries, and they say, "Oh, your country doesn't have affluent places. It seems like everywhere is poor," and this is a thing I hear a lot. So Gambia has truly people who are better off than the rest, people who are maybe at a world standard, a middle class or upper middle class. But it's not an affluent society. So we need to focus on how to build capacity. We need to focus on how to pull people out of poverty, how to ensure everybody is literate, how to get everybody productive and making a decent living. When I say decent living, it's not just about earning $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month. It's earning a dignified living, meaning you have enough to own a home, you have enough to have mobility to pay your children's school fees. That's a dignified life. So when I hear government bragging that many Gambians are working. I mean, some work is close to slave labor. I mean, if you're earning $5,000, no human being in this world deserves to earn that little. So we need to look at an approach that uplifts majority of Gambians who are left behind, and that's a big majority. We need to look at an approach where we have to be very smart about how
You
to
don't,
punch
you don't,
above our
you
weight.
don't think national
Yeah.
minimum wage or living wage is something that could be a way forward, for the Gambia? Because if you pay somebody, 5,000 or $10,000, the rent is 3,000 or 5,000, food, a bag of rice, and all that. You don't think that could be an approach?
Well, the approach is multi-pronged. One of them is a minimum wage. But again, if you don't also grow the economy, if businesses don't grow, a minimum wage can either create inflation or it can crash businesses. So we have to ensure that there's an economic policy that looks at both growing the country's GDP and businesses within that GDP, at the same time creating social safety nets such as minimum wage. Because if you rush and introduce a minimum wage without looking at the macroeconomy, what you're going to create is inflation because businesses would just increase their prices, and those increases in wages would not mean much. It might even crash small businesses who are struggling to make sales. So definitely, it is one of the social policies that a government should look at, but it should be a multi-pronged approach to also grow the economy. So one thing I see is that Gambia government doesn't see itself competing with the rest of the world, even with Senegal. We have to look at Gambia as a country in a competition for resources, a competition for progress. And we need to think big. I always say the UMC, when we say transformation, we want to think big. We want to say, look, we're not only going to build a market just for Gambia, we're going to build a market for West Africa for Gambian goods and services. We'll try to service 100 million people. That's how we can become wealthy, trying to service Morocco, Mauritania, Mali, Senegal, Guinea Conakry, Guinea Bissau, and using Gambia as a hub for the region. We could be the gateway for West Africa.
Like,
So we need to dream big, we need to be disruptive, we need to create good laws that allow for businesses to invest in Gambia. One sign I always say that Gambia is not investable is because why does every business person coming from outside have to meet the president? That's even a terrible sign. Before you want to invest, you have to go sit down with the president. It shouldn't be that way. You should be able to invest without meeting politicians because you have institutions and systems and laws that work and protect investors.
so everything is politicized then?
Everything is centralized, everything is politicized. I mean, if you're a serious country, the president, remember, is one man. If the president has to meet every single investor, it means that there's no investment. Because if the president has to make time and meet every investor, it means then there's very little
You
investment
don't
coming
think
into the
you don't
Gambia.
think something is crafty about that? Something is dodgy or crafty about that?
Well, it certainly encourages corruption. It certainly encourages, nepotism and unfair practices. I mean, if your information to invest is in GIPA's website, this is the Gambia Investment Export Authority. You have all the information that is available, all the legal frameworks that protect investment. Nobody needs to come and see a leader to invest. It certainly is not happening in the UK or serious countries.
Okay. I want to adhere to time, time in consent. So how would you plan, to work with, have you got any plans to work with any other political parties moving forward?
All right. So one thing I'm telling our people, I mean, the movement is so fluid. There's so many divergent views. There's so many personalities on different platforms. The reason being, we are shaping our narrative, we're shaping our policies, we're shaping our manifesto. But certainly, my personal belief is in politics, you never say never. In life, generally, you never say never. But we can set basic rules that guide future discussions. And I always say, generally, if political entities mirror our values, our principles, our vision for the country, I mean, we are more than happy to sit down with anybody and hear what they have to say about the direction of the country. I also don't believe that we should form a coalition just to remove President Barrow. I think that is political expediency. I think we should form coalitions that govern. We form coalitions that bring change. Because certainly, if we form coalitions just to remove a leader, history will repeat itself. Once that task is obtained, the coalition will break apart, and then there will be a lot of unhappy players who believe the goal was never reached. So I think more than just elections, politics is about governance. So we must start from governance and work our way back on winning elections.
Thank you. We've got 3 minutes. What does success look like for your party in the next coming months?
So our party is moving very fast. We are structuring very quickly. We are mobilizing very quickly. We are setting up our bureaus, our structures all over the country. Our message is spreading. Our personnel are enthusiastic. So success for us in the next 3 months is ensuring that we have our executive in place, ensuring that our constitution is ready and published. Our manifesto is published all over for Gambians to hear, and we're able to, officially launch unveil our executive, launch our manifesto, and do a countrywide tour successfully. That would be success for us in the next 3 months.
Your thoughts on the current government?
So I always say one thing: if you close your eyes and say Barrow didn't do anything, that would be disingenuous. If you say Barrow didn't get anything right, that would be incorrect. I mean, we have to be fair. We can admit when certain things are done okay or properly, and we say when they are not done correctly, and that would actually make Gambians trust us even more. I think on infrastructure they've done fairly well. This is road infrastructure, though it is arguable about cost and bloated expenses and how they are contracting and procuring these services. But I mean, most Gambians agree that infrastructure has improved, certainly, especially in the urban area. But when it comes to governance, I think they've done very poorly. They have not brought in the reforms that were promised. The civil service reform, the security sector reform, the constitution reform. So it was a government of change, but they haven't achieved that change because change has to institutionalize. When you come to security, I think security has gone very terribly wrong. We see murders in the community every day, murders at forex bureaus. The crime rate is very high. People feel a very high sense of insecurity. And I think they have scored very poorly when it comes to that. When it comes to health as well, I think they have not done very well. I heard the health minister trying to correct, one opposition leader about child mortality, but the numbers he spoke of were not even something to brag about. So I think there's a majority of areas the government did not do well. But what is most important is that Barrow should not go for third term. I mean, that is setting the foundation for future problems and future issues. Remember, President Jawara overstayed, and that's why he was removed unceremoniously, and that could have been avoided. President Jammeh stayed for 22 years, and that didn't end too well. President Barrow is the first president who has a great chance to leave a legacy where he lives on his own terms. He can say, I have brought changes through, first of all, defeating President Jammeh, who was seen as an authoritarian at a fair and free election. Some even say it was not free. And I have, made marginal or good, big improvement in democracy and freedom of speech. I have improved infrastructure. I have allowed private sector to thrive and invest. So, and then I will leave a legacy as the first president who will leave after a 2-term limit without any pressure or without anybody conditioning me. And Mr. Jammeh, that will leave a huge legacy for Jammeh, and he would for President Barrow, and he would automatically be the best president so far Gambia has ever had, just because he left. But a lot of people are pushing him because of their own personal interest to continue. And what I tell everybody is, if President Barrow chooses to continue, certainly he will say he will go for a fourth term as well, because the same conditions would be there. He will say, if I leave now, my party would break apart. If I don't leave on my own terms, I would have accountability issues. That narrative will never go away. So my advice to President Barrow as an opposition leader is leave and secure your legacy. Pick somebody from your own party to replace you. God will, you as we often say, if God says somebody will be the next president, they will be, and nothing can stop that.
So if it goes for third term, what are the tendencies of friction?
I think there's going to be a lot of challenges in governance for President Barrow. I think there's going to be a lot of challenges for credibility, not just for him, but also the government and the country. And, I think it would be a betrayal of trust of the Gambian people. Because remember, in every survey done since 2016, the number one area that Gambians vote on almost unanimously is the need for two-term limits. And I think it would feed a future ambition for a fourth term, and then it never stops until it becomes a governance crisis,
I know, Mister, you are a
a
politician,
crisis of
now.
governance. Yeah,
You are a
yeah.
big politician now, and then I want to stick to the time, and I want to respect time for you.
I know we are going over
You know,
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
just we do this in 2 minutes, if possible. Before
yeah,
you come to your final thoughts, I want to respect this time for yourself. To be very honest.
yeah.
So what it is, corruption is very common. In summary, in 30 seconds, what
Right.
measures would you put in place for us to put a halt to corruption in the Gambia when it comes into power?
So corruption is about one, president. It's about two, governance structures. It's about three, the willingness of leaders to tackle it. So when I say precedence is when it happens, how it is dealt with sets precedence. I mean, if leaders are very harsh in dealing with corruption, it certainly reduces the chances of it repeating itself or perversing so widely. So that is one, how you deal with it. And I think the UMC would have zero tolerance and would apply the full force of the law to anybody we found wanting in the Gambia government that we lead. Secondly, is about institutionalizing it. I mean, we have a national audit office. When the president said audit reports are opinions and these are not real things, that alone, almost single-handedly defeated, the fight against corruption, because it showed that there was no seriousness about the government when it came to accountability. So you need to empower the National Audit Office, first of all, by not having the president appoint or its director or being able to fire its director. It's the director of the National Audit Office could be nominated by the president, but should be ratified by parliament and then should be allowed to serve out their contract without interference or fear or favor. Same with the Chief Justice. The president should not be able to appoint the Chief Justice and fire him. The parliament should ratify the appointment of the Chief Justice, and they should be allowed to serve their time without interference from the executive. Same with the central bank governor. So you need to institutionalize these things, and then you need to have an anti-corruption commission permanently in place that listens to cases of high-level corruption. And then you have judges who have powers of high court judges to rule on that.
I
Then,
think
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
in future we'll do 2 hours because an hour even
Okay.
is too small for you. It's
Thank you
too
so
small for
much.
you.
I
So what we'll
appreciate
do,
it. I appreciate it.
what we'll
Yeah.
do, before you have your final thoughts, I'll leave the floor to
Right.
you. Before I give you the final thoughts, I put to the
Right.
Gambian. But this,
Right.
this separates 2% of UMC. Your thoughts on that, and then we give the final thought.
We don't take that seriously because UMC was barely 3 weeks old when that came up. And actually, we spoke with the surveyors. They said UMC was not considered in their surveys. It only came up because people were responding UMC, UMC, UMC. And Mr. Jammeh, was so interesting. I did not even know the name UMC until I think in December when it was said by a supporter, because we refer to ourselves as Unite, not UMC. So we are definitely Unite Movement for Change, but it's supporters who started abbreviating it as UMC. We call ourselves as Unite. So it's based on a survey within 3 months of our announcement with no bureaus, no structures on the ground. And even to date, we talk to some people who support even me and they don't know the name of the party. Yesterday, I think, or day before, I was speaking to somebody and telling them, and then they were saying they want to name a tournament after me. And I said, no, don't name it after Bensouda, name it after UMC. And he said, oh, what's that? I said, it's the name of our new our
You have
party.
a lot of
So,
work to do. You have a lot of
we
work to
have
do
a
then.
lot of work. But what is so impressive? What is so impressive about that survey for us is that only 3 weeks of our announcement, we come ahead of parties that were established for decades or even more than a decade, and we come number 5 in the country. So for us, we were celebrating. We thought that is quite an impressive showing for 3 weeks.
Thank
And
you.
we joke and say, if we are 2% every 3 weeks, then in 6 months we'll be at 35%.
Thank you. Your final thoughts, and then that will be it. Your final
Yeah.
thoughts.
Well, thank you first of all, and we appreciate journalists like you taking their time and allowing politicians to really enlighten the public about their activities. But I would like to certainly advise all Gambians. Politics is about nation building. It's not about fighting or who can insult more or who can say terrible things. Or it's not about rumors and allegations. It's about nation building. It's about constructive criticism, even if it's negative criticism, let it be respectful and let it be truthful. So the way we conduct our politics is the way we govern. I always say it. If you insult when you're politicking, then certainly when you govern, you're going to use force. So let us be disciplined. Let us focus on the big picture, which is many, many Gambians are suffering in trouble and hoping that politics can solve their problems. And we look across West Africa, countries that have given up on politics, what has happened there? Every country that has had a military issue or problems, people gave up on politicians. And we should avoid that at all costs because that never ends well. We want to have a civilian government. Want to have a democratic country that performs, and we want to have democratic institutions that serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, energy, and effort. Much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Bensouda.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
All right, cheers. That's why we draw the curtain for today's edition of this special discussion with the leader of the UMC, Mr. Talib Ahmed Bensouda. I think, in future, we're going to cater for 2 hours, he's a politician now. On that note, we'll say special thanks and appreciation goes to all viewers and listeners at the moment for and on behalf of all the team here at Sky Power Studios. It's been Mustafa Jame behind the scene. Good evening to you all.